Pelicans fired head coach Monty Williams after 5 seasons on the job. Williams led the Pels to the postseason despite a rash of injuries, but New Orleans was swept by the Warriors. As you'd expect, Monty had the proper perspective on the news.
My family is indebted to the opportunity we've had here. We came here 5 years ago, and we've been so blessed to do what we do. I wanted to bring a championship here to this city. I hope that the things that I have done and our coaching staff and players have done will give our team for the future something to hold on to. And I just want the fans to know that thankful for what they've done for me. I'm so indebted to them, and I don't have any bitterness in my heart, man. I'm a bit hurt, a bit scuffed up.
Class reaction from a classy guy, Monty Williams, who mentioned the injuries. Davis, Holiday, Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson missed 98 games over the course of the season, still helped the Pelicans win that 8th spot in the Western Conference with 45 wins, their first playoff spot since 2011. GM Dell Demps tried to explain how the decision to let Williams came about.
This is an organizational decision in which we decided a coaching change is best for the long-term success of the Pelicans. This is a very difficult decision, but I support it.
You said you support the decision. Did you make the decision?
This was an organizational decision that was made by ownership and management.
Were you the person to notify Monty, or was it Mickey, or were you on the meeting?
Mickey talked to Monty.
Were you
I was not there. I was not there.
Did you all talk to Anthony yet about this and gauge his feelings towards it?
I had a conversation with him after the decision was made.
How was it?
You know, I said I talked to him, and I think that's that'll stay between us. But I did talk to him about after the decision was made. And I talked to a number of players.
Is it fair to say you are not concerned this decision will make a contract extension with AD more challenging?
I'm not allowed to talk about contract extensions. That's just per, NBA, CBA rules. You're not allowed to talk about those.
What about it just in general with this future? Then let's take the word contract out of it. Is it fair to say you're not concerned that Anthony's will feel alienated by that decision?
I said, I don't like to speak for people. I have to speak for, myself.
Not sure how much was really cleared up there by Dell Demps trying to answer some of the questions along the way. Generally speaking, what did you make of the job that Monty Williams did in New Orleans?
Well, I thought he did a good job. I think the key thing was the injuries. The injuries this year, I think there was an ultimatum made that he had to make the playoffs this year. And with all the injuries, I think Anthony Davis was out 20 games, Tyreke Evans, Drew Holiday, Eric Gordon. Hard to build any kind of continuity. But he still got that team in, had a big win against San Antonio to actually make the playoffs. They got swept by Golden State. But, in full disclosure, Monty's a great friend of mine. And I know when I went through some personal things in Orlando, some rough times, he was one of my teammates and friends who was there for me. So, I know how hard he worked and how classy he is. He showed that in that interview, I think on his front of his house. I can't believe
Not sure, yeah.
They ambushed him like that. But I thought he did a good job. I'm sad to see him go, but it seems like there's a full-sail sort of change going on in that organization, and I wonder if Demps will be in the picture, moving forward as well.
It's a good question. As an opposing player, what did you learn to expect from a Monty Williams team?
Well, I've only talked to Monty a couple times in passing. Really good guy, though. Loves the game. But this guy's always played hard every night. He motivated those young guys to play hard every night. And to have 45 wins in a tough conference, in a tough year, and actually make the playoffs and then lose your job. We always talk about in the NBA how it's about winning. And if you look on paper and everything that they did throughout the season with what they had, with all the injuries, through all that, they make the playoffs with that young group of guys. They get experience. And, he gets fired. It was the same kind of thing with Mark Jackson. Mm-hmm. Things happen. You don't understand. You think it's about winning. But, I guess that's the business side of it. But, in my opinion, if a guy is coaching well and, the proof is in the results, I think they should have jobs and they should keep their jobs.
Not only Mark and Monty, but George Karl and Lionel Hollins over the last few years. You know how tough this business is. Now there are three jobs open in the NBA, Orlando and Denver being the other two. Those two don't have Anthony Davis on the roster. This is a pretty good one.
Yeah, you know, and let me follow up on, I think there's a very troubling thing that's going on in the NBA, in our association with the coaches in terms of criteria. I mean, how do you hold on to your jobs? You know, what's the criteria for hiring a coach, firing a coach, moving on, making the decision? I mean, how do the coaches know when they're doing a good job, when they're doing a bad job? Some coaches, you know, some organizations, the coach wins 25 games, 30 games, and the coach is doing a great job. And then you have some coaches who make the playoffs, a coach of the year, win the division, and they get fired. So what's the criteria, and how are we evaluating and judging our coaches in this league? And I think the Coaches Association needs to come together and maybe put out some type of criteria in terms of, so fans will understand what's going on and how do we evaluate coaches nowadays.